I don't care what your situation is. If you focus on your goal and you work on it every single day, you can accomplish whatever the hell you want. But there's so many people that will tell them, hey, you can't do it. And it's only because that person who's saying it wasn't able to accomplish it.
Come on now.
So they believe that that person shouldn't be able to do it as well. But that's something I hold with me, man, is like, you can do whatever you want, keep a chip on your shoulder no matter what, and just grind through, put in that work.
I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag.
What's up? You are now listening to FY Fly the podcast, and I'm your host, Hassan Thomas, along with Remy, and we are here to share tools on how millennials can budget, save, invest, and understand student debt and credit to achieve financial freedom. If you're a high school student, college student, or someone who's interested in gaining more financial insight, this podcast is for you.
I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag.
What's up, my fly folks out there? How y'all doing? I hope y'all doing all right. Welcome to the FY Fly podcast. My name is Hassan Thomas, aka the kid that did and the man that can, baby. And today, we're going to be chopping it up with former advisor turned financial coach and now financial influencer, whether he likes it or not, Mr. Marc Russell from Better Wallet, man. How are you, bro? How are you?
What's good, family? How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling good, bro. Feeling good. Super happy to have you here, man. You know, how things been since FinCon? I remember we met at the FinCon before this one. You know, didn't really get to interact too much, but we definitely locked in at this FinCon and, you know, been able to rock out. So how's everything been for you?
Good, man. Yeah, my whole thing for FinCon this year was just making sure that I was getting myself in the right rooms, right? Like just making sure I'm introducing myself to a lot of people because there's a lot of talent in, you know, FinCon in general. Thousands of different financial creators that are all doing different things, have great ideas.
But now I really want to dive into your story because you mentioned it, how you grew up in a small town. And also, you know, one big key about your story as well, that you were a foster child. You know, and I'm sure that adversity that you survived really made you into that person that you are today. So can you kind of give us like some of your background about that and some of the lessons you still carry to this day?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a crazy story. And every time I tell it, I have to like think back and be like, man, that really did happen.
To you, yeah.
So like growing up, man, like both my mom and dad, they're addicted to drugs, victims of drug abuse in Philly. And when I was born, I was a preemie baby, which is crazy because I'm like 6'2", 250 now. But like I was a NICU alum, I like to call it. And, you know, I was at the time, like I had drugs in my system. So they had to like do things to take it out of my system. But eventually they put me straight into foster care. And then, you know, after living with all types of different people all across Pennsylvania, I finally settled in a home in central PA. Yeah. So that was, you know, I think I was like 8 or 9 at that time, but I didn't actually get adopted until 13.
Wow. So you were bouncing around from all those years?
There's just say again?
So you were bouncing around all those years?
Yeah. Because even when I settled at the place in central PA, like they can still move you from place to place. Like you can be bouncing around like a bunch of different foster homes. So eventually at 13, I was adopted because I mean, like adoptions, I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, like adoptions, like you just sign a piece of paper and say like, I want said child. Like there's so much more that comes along with it. It's what the kid is currently going through, whatever traumas they went through over the course of their life. Like they really don't have as much structure because they don't even know who they really are. That's how I felt at 13. And then the family is taking on another kid. You're basically adopting them, and it's not like you're not integrated. You're completely integrated into the family. Yeah. So there's a lot. And yeah, man, like over time, my dad and my mom, they just forced me to focus on academics. So we lived below the poverty line. A lot of the people that I was interacting with below the poverty line. A lot of my friends were, I like to call them entrepreneurs, but they weren't paying taxes.
Okay, I got you. I'm figuring out what you put down.
Yeah, selling the other thing. So I think that's where I got the hustle mindset, right? Like I never did it, but I learned a lot from those guys. Like a lot of the dudes that, you know, unfortunately went to jail for that kind of stuff, they're my mentors. They were like, because my dad worked a lot. They were like father figures to me. They continued to kind of mentor me. They're out of the game now, but like when I go back home, they're still mentoring.
Yeah.
So like I owe a lot to them. So, but that's like how you grow up when you grow up in those types of situations.
So what would you say has been your biggest lesson that you still carry to this day with you from your experiences growing up?
Yeah, man, I would say like continue to have like a chip on your shoulder. Like I feel like I always have to have something to prove. In high school, I had something to prove. Like people are like, oh, you can't do this. You can't accomplish. You can't go to college. You can't own a business. You can't. And I would constantly hear that as a child, and I would have a chip on my shoulder, and I would say, well, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to college. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to pay for it. And, I'm going to graduate in 4 years. I'm going to have a great degree and like go and work for the top mutual fund company in the world.
Come on now.
So like you're continuing to prove them wrong. And it's not necessarily just for me. It's also for the kids I call them the snotty nose project kids from my town. I want them to know that they can do whatever they want to do.
Facts.
Like in this internet age, I don't care what your situation is. If you focus on your goal and you work on it every single day, you can accomplish whatever the hell you want. But there's so many people that will tell them, hey, you can't do it. And it's only because that person who's saying it wasn't able to accomplish it.
Come on now.
So they believe that person shouldn't be able to do it as well. But that's something I hold with me, man, is like you can do whatever you want, keep a chip on your shoulder no matter what, and just grind through, put in that work.
No, that's huge. That's huge. And that's what I was trying to get for those, like you said, those kids that were in your situation. I want to see if I wanted to give them some value, some game, how they can go out there and get active without spending a whole bunch of money and, doing all those other things. But I want to get into your college years because you talked about how you went to Penn State. So what's your opinion on college nowadays? Do you think it's still needed to become successful? Like, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I think about this question often because some people will come and say, well, did you really need to go to college to create what you have now? And I think they forget about everything else that like I had to go through in order to get to this point.
Yeah.
I think people just see like what you have accomplished and they're like, oh, that was overnight. I'll talk about me and then I'll talk about why my thoughts on college in general.
Yeah.
So for me, in the situation that I was in, college was less of I'm going there for an education, right? It was I'm escaping everything that was going on in my life at that time.
Understood.
Right? Like if I didn't go off to college, and I know what would have happened. I would have been killed, I would be a drug dealer, or I would be in jail. Because that's what people do for my town.
Yeah.
I knew because I have friends that took a year off before going to college.
And then
those guys
didn't never go to
anymore.
college after that, did they?
Never went to college. Some of them aren't here anymore. Some of them are locked up. I knew what was going to happen. So college, it just so happened to be college. It could have been, anything like to get me away from that environment. So in my head, I was like, I'm willing to pay $20,000. It was $20,000 a year in total at Penn State. I'm willing to pay $20,000 a year to give me the chance of not having to go back to the hood.
Gotcha.
So I had to like find a way to make sure my kids didn't have to go through the same thing.
So your overall thoughts on is college needed today for these young folks coming up?
That question. Yeah. So that's my situation. But so nowadays, given like how expensive college is, I would say like college isn't the default like it was before. Like before it was like, okay, of course you need to like go to college or that's the way out.
Yeah.
Nowadays, just thinking about what companies want and what you need to be an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily need to go to college for that stuff. So for example, if you're applying to certain companies, they don't even care if you have a college degree.
Wow.
They want the best talent, period.
Like
when I used to interview for Vanguard, and I used to interview for like these top wealth managers.
Yeah.
I didn't give a where they went to college. I didn't care if they had a degree. I wanted you to come in and I wanted you to care about the resume. I wanted you to make sure you didn't have any grammatical mistakes.
Yeah.
You had a nice suit or whatever it might be. And you seem to do some research because what I've learned is that you can go to Harvard but if you can't connect with the clients and you can't bring in the money,
Yeah.
then I don't care like where you went to school. You can go to, Atlanta State University, which doesn't exist. Don't look it up. But you go to Atlanta State University.
Yeah.
I don't care. You can have a certification, but that's the way that it works in the finance world, for example. Like they used to always say, like, in finance, like they only see green. Like they only see bread, like how much money you bring in. They don't care like where you went to school or whatever. So that's one thing that has changed over the years where companies don't care for it. When you start thinking about entrepreneurship, if that's the journey that you want to go down, you can get a bunch of like certifications.
Yeah.
And you can get certifications. You can learn from different people. You can join a mastermind and learn everything you need to know about like running a business.
Fact.
And it'll be significantly cheaper
From people who are actually running a business.
from people who are already doing it. And the internet provides you access to that kind of stuff. Before you couldn't just like connect with someone on Instagram that's running a mastermind full of millionaires.
Yeah.
Nowadays you can do that. So it really comes down to that. But when you think about the easy way, right? Because like entrepreneurship is not like a straight line. When you think about what is a straight line, it is college.
Gotcha.
Because you know that there's a specific formula that you can follow to graduate
Get you from
to
A to
eventually
B.
get a job. Right. Like I can literally map it out for you right now. Like if you're a high school senior, you go, you apply, here's how you apply. Here's what you need to make sure you're saying when you get on the campus, do this degree, do economics, finance after 4 years of doing the schoolwork, which is all like it's nothing but a system at the end of the day. Like you learn the system over time.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why people's GPA goes up year after year. Then you graduate and you say these certain things on your resume and you apply to this job. And I can guarantee people they can get a job wherever. It's a linear path. But if you say, hey, like I want to be, a multi-six-figure entrepreneur, there's so many different ways you can kind of go, and likely you're going to fail initially, right? So that's the reason why, like, you have to really assess, like, if you're a parent and you're trying to teach your kid, like, you don't have to go out to college, like, you have to assess, like, the level of risk you want to take on for that.
Gotcha.
And for me, I couldn't take on any risk because if I failed, I was going back home, and I didn't want to do that. So I needed that straight path.
Man, that's a really good answer for the folks listening, because I feel like, if you need that degree to become a doctor or become a lawyer or, become any of those certain fields that a degree is needed, then definitely go out to college, do your thing, try to avoid as much debt as you can, but, definitely go do your thing, because there's a return on investment there from you being a doctor, you being a lawyer. But if you just want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a musician, if you want to be any of those certain fields, you can go, like you said, the masterminds, the trade schools. So I think trade schools should be more, publicized, nowadays, because people are, going to trade school at 18, being that joint for 9 months, and then come out making $60,000 to $70,000 a year.
Yeah, that's how I grew up. Most people went off to trade schools. They didn't go to a 4-year university. And initially, they were making more money than me when I graduated from school. I was making 50 when I worked at Vanguard. They were making like 70. And I'm like, what? Like, and you as a young, dumb kid, I was like, oh, like you're going to trade school. That's below me, right? But then you realize how important a lot of those trades are, like HVAC and like plumbing, all that stuff.
We calling them, the entrepreneurs calling them.
Right, we're calling them to do it because we don't know how to do it. Like they can easily do our jobs, we can't do theirs because like there's a level of expertise that you need to have and experience. But yeah, even trade school. But yeah, I mean that's something that you have to assess, and it takes a certain type of person to be able to say, hey, like I'm not going to go off to college. I'm just going to be an entrepreneur. And as I mentioned, I started off saying that you're going to fail initially because that's, the stats tell you that. Like I failed in business a few different times before Bear Wallet blew up, but that's all part of the program. But also don't feel like you need to be all in on one or the other. Like I know plenty of people that were entrepreneurs at Penn State that were also studying for a degree.
Fact.
There's this guy, his name is Austin Miller. Like if you look him up online, he's like Verify. He's like a big time DJ. A lot of the trending audio that you see online is he's the dude with like the dreads, like when he's like bouncing around like with his like playing music. Like Austin Miller, he went to Penn State and he was a year prior to me.
Okay.
And he studied production at Penn State. Now he signed a major deal, I want to say with like Sony.
Sheesh.
With like what he's doing as being an entrepreneur.
So he got that knowledge and implemented it for real.
Right. So he used the knowledge and the network that he had at Penn State, which I like. The networking at Penn State is like phenomenal, to do what he really wanted to do. Right.
Yeah.
So like, don't feel like you need to pick one or the other. You could do a hybrid of that. And in college, you're around 60,000. I mean, at Penn State, you're around like 60,000 different people.
Yep.
That you can test on.
Come on,
like, when I was growing up or when I was going through college, I was helping people with budgeting, and I was like, all right, well, this doesn't work, this does work, and that was the floor for like what I was able to leverage to go to Vanguard and then go and coach more people. That led to Better Wallet. Now I do it and I get paid for it. I do that on a daily basis where I'm helping people budget and manage their money. So you can use college as like a playground as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's actually what I did when I tore my meniscus. I started my financial literacy journey. Started because I was writing a senior thesis, which is a senior research paper over financial literacy, and then I was telling everybody, hey, I'm about to write this book and do my senior thesis, kill two birds with one stone. And then my cousin was like, man, you should turn that into an app. So literally my senior year, I began researching. I'm asking, my fellow students for like, survey questions on, budgeting and saving and investing. I'm going around and I'm meeting with professors, and then I'm meeting with like some higher decision makers. And then I ended up getting a meeting with the dean to discuss financial literacy on the campus. So now I'm still in talks in progress of getting FY getting the curriculum implemented into the school. So I'm trying to use my school that I graduated from as a pilot to then start my financial literacy empire there, and then go up to University of Tennessee, then go to University of Georgia, and just keep building there. So as you said, that was a great example. You can definitely do both.
Right, exactly. And I'm even thinking about it now where I want to get my course into Penn State as being like a prerequisite before they start corporate America.
Facts,
I think and I know it's that good, where these are all things I wish I knew prior to graduating from school. So like, yeah, man, like use if you do go to college, use it as a network, use it as your playground, because that could pay significant dividends down the road. 100%. I think sometimes people just do the math and they're like, all right, well, I'm paying $100,000 for school. And I go out and, I get a starting salary of like 50,000, I'm losing this money, but it's like, nah, it's all about what you do with that network.
Come on now.
And if you go to a school that's heavily networked, or like you have a bunch of successful people around you, the ROI can be crazy.
Fact.
Like it could be like every job that I got after college was because of another Penn State alum, where I just told them, and that's just how like we roll. Where I just walked into the interview and they're like, "Oh, you're from Penn State." They kind of give you like the nod of like, "I got you, bro." Like they don't tell you that, they don't put it in writing, right? But like they're like, "I got you." So you kind of go through the interview process, and the entire time you're talking about Penn State football.
So that's real.
That's real. Okay. There's so many things that come along with it.
Okay. I was about to say, man, you should have mentioned the ETFs and index funds, man. You got to be piped up, not.
Yeah, man. You know what it is.
I wanted to get into that as well. Like, can you dive into the true benefit of investing into those type of accounts, and then give us like some actionable, practical game of, what's your favorite brokerages that you use to invest into these ETFs and index funds?
Yeah, man. So let's define the problem real fast with investing. So when you are using individual stocks and bonds and you're trading in and out of them in order to provide a return, it's really, really hard to produce a return from that. Yeah. So that's number one. Likely you're going to have more negative days than positive days, and the stress that comes along with that.
And the people on IG only show you them positive days. They don't show.
Yeah, don't get me started, man. Like, I'm like, bro, tell your entire net, like your net loss. Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
But that's another podcast episode. But
for sure.
So it's impossible to trade in and out and make a consistent profit over the long term, right? So we'll start there. Number two, if you're in individual stocks, you're not as diverse as you really need to be. You need to have close to 50 different stocks that are uncorrelated in order to be properly diversified.
Okay.
Let's start there. Just, more than 50. I would probably argue like close to 100. And in order to buy into 50 to 100, it could take a long time to just go and like buy. And then you have to make sure you're allocating them appropriately based off your goals. So you have to have the right mix of like domestic, international, emerging market stocks and bonds and all that stuff. The other challenge is we don't know what companies are going to be around 10 years from now, 20 years from now, right? Like if you told me that the top companies we see today were going to be the top companies, if you told me that 20 years ago, I would have laughed in your face and like, what?
Yeah, like the Amazons and the...
Yeah, like, you're going to tell me that Barnes and Noble is like not going to be the company anymore, and like people are going to actually be buying books from Amazon, like the way that they like started off, or the fact that people are going to be buying groceries online and having it delivered to their house. What? Like no possible way. Now they're talking about drones. Like no, right? So the challenge is the Kmarts of the world, right? When was the last time you saw a Kmart? Kmart used to be one of the biggest companies out there. It was unstoppable in forms of like when it comes to like just being a company. Kmart nowadays, like you rarely see them.
That's a great point. I haven't thought of that, though.
They're not doing, and like they're one of the companies that, when it comes down, and we'll get into index funds, but they were kicked out of major indexes because they weren't keeping up with like what they need to keep up with. Wow. So again, we'll define the problem. You have these stocks, they're probably correlated. You probably only have a few of them. You're managing them yourself. You can't provide a return. So over time, really smart people came together and said, like, let's create a basket of all the top stocks and allow these fund managers to kick out the Kmarts of the world that aren't providing a consistent return, or maybe their profit isn't as high. And we're only going to keep the cream of the crop. We're going to keep 507 them together, and you can buy them over a course of like it takes you 30 seconds to buy a mutual fund. If I went online to buy a mutual fund, I will probably time it to like 10 seconds to buy it, right? So you're buying 507 different companies. A lot of them are, they're diverse companies. They're companies that are doing really well, and they're being managed by a team of people that you pay on average, 5 to 10, what they call basis points, which is like 0.05%.
Okay.
Right. So is 0.05% of your money worth your time? And it's like, hell yeah, because I could be doing it myself, and that would be taken away from, what I could be doing and other things, right?
100%.
So that's when like index funds, particularly mutual funds, came around. So again, it's a basket of different stocks. You could buy easily in and out, and they're pretty liquid, so you can sell out whenever you want, on a day-to-day basis. And then over time, ETFs came around, and that was created by a guy by the name of Nate Most. Created them in the 90s. And basically, ETFs are like the electric car to like the regular car.
Come on now.
Where it's like a little bit more, efficient, from like a tax standpoint for the ETFs, like it's more tax efficient. You can buy in and out easily. It feels like a stock, but it gives you the same benefits of a mutual fund. So it was created in the 90s. It really didn't take off until like after the financial crisis of 2008. But all the things that you love, you get, and it's at a cheaper price. So people really flock to that. So again, you can have the problem, right? You could be trading in and out of stocks and think that you're going to beat the market. You're going to beat all these people that have these hedge funds out there, right? You think you could beat them, but you're just an average investor. Or you can just jump on an index, like an index fund that tracks like the S&P 500, and buy, don't touch it forever, and allow your money to grow without you doing anything, right? It's literally the lazy way of investing, which has been proven over time that it provides you a lot of money. The crazy thing is people say, nah, I don't want that. That's boring. I'm not going to do it.
And folks skip that, and they go straight to what you were talking about, the trading, the options trading, the swing trading, all those different things. And all of that is a skill. That takes time to learn. This is just knowledge based. If you learn about it and learn how to open up a brokerage account and learn how to automate your investing, then you good. Like what are some of your favorite brokerage accounts that you actually use to invest into these accounts?
For sure. Yeah, when you're looking at a brokerage account, you're looking for a couple main things, at least in my opinion, for like the best brokerage firms. Mm-hmm. You want support. So like things happen, trades might not go through, like you need customer support. Okay. So you want people who are qualified, that are licensed to answer your financial question or administrative questions. Gotcha. So the companies that provide that are the Vanguards, the Fidelities, the Charles Schwabs of the world. Mm-hmm. You also want like an app, right? Like we're app people now. So like there's some companies that don't have apps, but they have brokerage firms, which is crazy. Yeah. You want companies that have been around for a long time. They've went through the financial crisis of 2008. They went through even like the tech bubble of 2001. Mm-hmm. They went through COVID, and they were able to work their way through that. Yeah. And then probably the most important part of a brokerage firm that you want to look for is you want to have tax efficient accounts. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like we don't talk about that enough, but as a financial advisor, that's like an everyday conversation I had, 'cause I was working with rich people that don't like to pay taxes. And like the thing about it is like, even if you're not rich, you're pre-rich, as my girl Ellie would say. Mm-hmm. Like even if you're pre-rich, you should be trying to find ways to lower your taxes, because we shouldn't be paying Uncle Sam as much money as we're paying. So that's, in terms of brokerage firms, that's what you're looking for. You want to have that support. You want to have those tax efficient accounts. And then also you want to have low fees as well, because some of these platforms charge a ridiculous fee, even if you're trying to jump out of it. If you have money in Robinhood right now and you're trying to transfer all that money out and take it into Vanguard, I believe the fee, the last time I checked, was $100 in order to do that transfer.
From Robinhood?
Right. From Robinhood.
Oh, wow.
Right. I looked it up because my sister was trying to get out of Robinhood, and I was like, I think there's a fee, and they increased it from, I want to say it was like 50 to 100. Might have to like stat check that, but but there's like a transfer fee. And they do that because they're a newer platform that's worried about people jumping out, right? They want to keep the money on the platform, and they make it where they penalize people for taking it off their platform. If you want to move from Vanguard to Fidelity, they're not going to charge you a fee for that. Yeah. They don't need to. Like you moving your little, in their head, little $500,000 account or even $1 million account. Yeah. They don't care. They make we've been doing this, man. That money out, they're going to make 4 times that amount. They don't care. Yeah. But the Robinhoods of the world, they have to worry about that a little bit more because of how they're structured.
And you mentioned those tax advantaged accounts. I wanted to get your opinion, especially from a financial expert, financial advisor, for a person that's graduating college or maybe a little older, I would say like 22 to like 35. What do you feel like is the most important financial accounts to contribute to, as far as like priority wise, like Roth IRAs, 401ks, health savings accounts? Like, what do you believe that we should be prioritizing?
Yeah, man. I most millionaires are created through 401ks. And I think people sleep on it. 401ks, 403b, TSAs, pension, whatever you have. Yeah. The cool thing with a 401k is that you can put your money on the autopilot, literally contribute, whatever the percentage is. You also, for a lot of employers, you get a match. So they will match, I think the average is like 4%. Yeah. So if you're putting 4% in, they put 4% in, you're taking 8% of your salary that's going into your 401k. Come on. On top of that, the money that you're putting into your 401k, it lowers your taxable income. So if you put in $10,000, your salary is $80,000. Uncle Sam is only going to look at 70 and say, okay, well, we're going to put a tax on that amount. And
then back then, 2021, you would have been able to get that stimulus if you did that.
Right. Exactly. So that could lower your, what they call your AGI, or adjusted gross income, and then you fall into certain thresholds, as you mentioned. Other things you could do if you don't have access to a 401k, or even if you do have access to a 401k and you qualify for a Roth IRA, that's another good way of investing tax efficiently. Yeah. With a Roth IRA, you put the money in after tax. So the money that goes into your paycheck, you put it into a Roth IRA, and the money grows tax free.
Come on now.
The cool thing with the Roth IRA is, with a 401k, just for comparison, with a 401k at 59.5, which is a random number that IRS made up, with a 401k, you take the money out, you have to pay taxes on your earnings. With a Roth IRA, because you put the money in after tax, it grows tax free, and then you could take the money out at 59.5 and not pay any taxes. Which, for us, like at base level, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But you talk to someone who is retired, who has to pay taxes on the amount that they take out. Let's say they have to take out $4,000 a month. $1,000 of that has to go to taxes.
Oh man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, probably a little bit less depending on like what their tax rate is, but like that's how that works. Imagine if you can just have an additional $1,000 per month that you get to keep to do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Like I know what I would do. I wouldn't be just hanging out in Atlanta, right? For that additional $1,000, right? That's a full trip for like depending on where you're going.
And that's not something you want to be worrying about when you get older.
Right. And like all that stuff, like with the Roth IRA or even the Roth 401k, that money is coming from those younger years where you're putting money away for the time that you're retiring. The other cool thing is with the Roth IRA, you don't have to necessarily wait until 59.5. And from putting my advisor cap on, you should use your Roth IRA for retirement. That's what it's built for. You shouldn't use it for a different goal. However, happens, right? Like you could take the money out after 5 years. So let's say you start putting money into a 529 now, it's 2022. When 2027 rolls around or even 2028, you could take that money out and use that money for your first home.
So you can you don't have to wait until you 59 and a half. You could take your Roth IRA, the money that you've grown in your Roth IRA out and use it for real estate or use it for like an investment?
Yep. So a lot of people will take $10,000 out for their first home and not have to pay taxes on it.
Sheesh. That's a play.
Right? And you don't have to deal with the penalty either. So like that's another way. The IRA says, hey, like, that's a way you can go about, paying for your first home. Or you can also use that money for college expenses. So if your kid's going off to school or even if you're going to school and you had a Roth IRA and you've been putting money into it, like you can use it tax free in order to pay for schooling. And there's like a few others like in the tax code, but you don't have to wait until 59 and a half, though I believe that you should use your Roth IRA for retirement, but there's a way of getting out of it if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, those are my two favorite types of tax advantage accounts. 401ks, traditional 401k, Roth 401ks, and then a Roth IRA if you qualify for it.
No, that's huge because I always say that the two biggest deterrents of wealth is taxes and debt. So that's huge that you gave that information, man. And I have a couple more questions for you. I want to really I want you to give us a good money habit that you have, and then also give us a bad money habit that you may have that we could cut off a little bit.
Yeah, man. So good money habit that I have. So I know where every one of my dollars is going.
Being intentional with it.
Yeah, like I make good money with Bear Wallet, but I pay myself a $50,000 salary, $50,000, and like I live a good life, right? It's because I know where every dollar is going and every dollar has a job. I still budget using the same Excel spreadsheet that I used when I was paying off $80,000 of debt.
Wow.
And every time I get paid, I go right into that spreadsheet. I plug in my numbers. I know how much I make. I know how much is going towards rent. I know how much is going to car insurance. I know how much money I'm going to be spending over the course of time if I'm like going out with friends or restaurants, whatever.
So that's the frequency that you budget is whenever you get paid?
Every time I get paid. So I used to budget every other week because that's how I was paid in corporate. But now I pay myself on a monthly basis. So I make sure that's like one of my big habits is that I want to make sure I sign every George Washington like a job.
Yeah.
And that has helped me out a lot. Just to make sure I'm keeping up with my investing goals. I'm also keeping up with like just living in a moment. If I'm going to DC like here in a couple of weeks, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go have a ball, but I'm gonna make sure I budget for it. I'm going to make sure that like I'm doing things I want to do. Bad financial habits, man. I need to think through that.
That's good.
Because like what some people believe are bad financial habits aren't bad financial habits if you structure it properly. For example, my family's from the South. I love to eat. I'm a big dude. Like I need to eat. Right. I love Indian food. And when I was in Philly, I would get Indian food. I would say once a week. It was definitely more than that. But like, so it was a bad financial habit because right? Like, cause you can cook at home. Like it would be cheaper if you probably eat something else. But in my head, it was good because I was controlling what I can control. I had a budget, I had a line item for Indian food, like going out
and
to
that's
eat.
the key.
So like I was, whatever your advice is, like you can, if you like to buy shoes, if you like to buy suits, whatever that is, for some people, it could be a bad financial habit because, you don't have the money to spend it, but then you're just swiping your credit card and it goes, to your debt.
Yeah.
But if you have good financial habits, those vices aren't all too bad. If you're buying a suit, so be it. Go for it. If you have the additional money, go for it. If you're traveling, go for it.
Facts.
But make sure you have that money assigned. And like we'll talk about it probably later, but like in a sinking fund, so you can just pull the money from there and just say, hey, like I already have the bread for it. And I'm not going to put it on a credit card and not pay off that credit card. You can use the credit card. Just make sure you pay it off at the end of the month.
Come on now.
That's what I'm talking about. The bad financial habits are the people that use the credit card and then pray that someone's going to pay that credit card off for them, which doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Unless you guys know like who's out here paying credit cards. If you know someone's paying off credit card bills, let a brother know.
Come on, man.
Because,
Hit him up.
Yeah, let me and Hassan know.
For sure, man. So I have one more question I want to hit you with. I'm going to read you these two quotes, and I need you to tell me which one is more accurate in your opinion, all right? All right, bet. So the first quote is, more money, more problems, like Biggie, Or the second quote is, money can't buy happiness. Which one do you believe is more accurate in your opinion?
God, that's a good one, man. So I will go, I think both of those statements are accurate. But the one that's more accurate, I feel like it's like a GMAT question. Like, which one is more correct? I believe money can't buy happiness. It makes it better. Don't get me wrong. Like, money makes things better. But I was just talking to my buddy, my like best friend from back at home.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about just like the trauma that you come through in order to get. He's an engineer in Harrisburg now.
Okay.
But he's like, bro, like, I send money to my mom, a couple grand a month, but I feel like it's not fixing anything, right? I feel like there's so many layers to like what she has to go through on a day-to-day basis that money's not helping.
Wow.
Right. And $2,000 in my town is like 10 grand somewhere else. Cause like it's really cheap. I think my sister's apartment is like $400 a month.
Wow.
It's really cheap to be in my town. And then the cost of living is like nothing because like no one, like you're not going and doing all too much and everything is walkable.
Makes sense.
So what he was saying was like, yo, I'm throwing all this money to her, but it's not fixing it. So there's a lot of underlying things that I feel like people need to fix or attempt to fix through therapy or budgeting or just like some sort of like understanding who you are as a person. Before the money becomes more of a factor. Now,
or maybe even spending time.
Really help out.
Those are two most valuable assets. But money can't fix it. Maybe some time with that certain person can.
Right. So like when you really unravel it and you think about like what actually makes people happy. I mean, when I think about where I'm from, what makes people happy is that they don't have to worry about the things that they have to worry about every single day. Like the trauma that they have to worry about, or like the fact that they don't know if someone's going to be going to jail or how they're going to put food on the table, how they're going to pay rent, how they're going to keep the lights on, all that stuff. Yeah, money helps with a lot of that stuff, but it doesn't fix the underlying trauma that you go through. And like I've realized that like the most unhappy people I think I've ever met were the people that were multimillionaires.
Wow.
Where I would have conversations with them. Yeah, like I would have conversations with them and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, Mr. Johnson, what's going on? Hey, man, like, I'm going through a divorce with my wife, or like my kids don't like me, or, I feel like I'm always constantly away from, the home. And like, mind you, these homes are like big homes overlooking New York City.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how they would call me because they felt like I was the only one that understood them. Right. Like they would be like, yo, like, I just respect that you just listen to like all my problems. And I'm like, dude, you make all this money. Like, how are you? And he's like, yeah, man, like my kids don't even recognize me anymore because I'm working all the time. Or, I'm constantly just like on the grind, and, I'm not there to like support them. I didn't go to a soccer match, whatever.
Yeah.
So you have to have a balance, man. Like, and it really comes down to like how you define happiness. And, money doesn't fix everything. And again, it makes it better, but it doesn't fix it. So you have to, just make sure you have a balance as you go and you're grinding.
Yeah, I think I think the biggest thing that I took from that, man, is money isn't everything. Like you said, it definitely fixes the money problems, as you don't have to worry about, where you paying the rent or what kind of food you're gonna be eating. But it doesn't fix that interpersonal joy that you either have or don't have. Those some things, like you said, may have to be worked out with therapy, may need to be, reconciliation with some family members or, some friends. Those type of things really do mend up, heartbreak, and do mend up, the hard times that you go through, because, money is always going to be around. But the people around you, they could be gone the next day.
Right.
So I think that's the important thing that I really took from there. Money isn't everything. It definitely helps, but it's not everything. Thank you so much for being, authentic with all of your answers and the conversation, man. Please let everybody know where they can reach you. And if you got any final words, go ahead, boss.
Yes. Yeah. So again, Mark Russell with Better Wallet. And as you guys probably can tell from the podcast, I'm all about make sure that you're streamlining your money in order for you to invest more for you and for your family, because we're here to build true generational wealth. So if you're looking for me, you can go to Instagram, find me at Better Wallet, BETTERWLWALLET. And then that is also on TikTok and also on Twitter. But yeah, man, like that's what we're all about. Got free resources over the Instagram page. So if you need some help and you don't want it to break the buck, just let me know and we have something for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, man, thank you so much for joining the FY Fly podcast. For everybody listening, take some of the small gems that he dropped on us and see what you can implement into your life right away. I know everything you heard today may not be for you, but if you can take 2 or 3 small gems and change your habits, change your mindset, I promise you, your life will change.
Yes, sir.
So again, thank you so much. And for all my folks listening, I need y'all to stay safe, stay invested, and stay FY Fly. We'll see you next week. Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to FY Fly, the podcast, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Tune in next week for more financial literacy insights with our special guests. Please visit our website, social media platforms, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at FYI Fly Podcast. That's FYI FLI Podcast. See y'all next week and stay fly.